You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today's episode 91, Stepping into Your CEO Game, a client case study with Tim Clothier. If you are an entrepreneur who wants actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I am so freaking excited to bring on my client, Tim. You are going to get to hear what was it like being the owner of his business, and why did he choose to work on his productivity, get a productivity coach, and ultimately decide to work with me. Literally, what was the day-to-day? And then fast forward, what was it like now in his business, or what is it like in his business? And then we're going to unpack and uncover the way he got there and what he had to work on and the team he built and the processes he put in place and the systems and the personal productivity skills. We are unpacking a ton in this episode. And as you'll hear, he is sharing his journey of stepping into his CEO role and not just being the guy that does everything. And so if you're listening to this and you're feeling like you are wearing way too many hats and wondering what would it look like if you were stepping into your CEO role and running your company or your business, and what could that path look like? What could that look like for you? I want you to stay tuned and listen to Tim. He is just an amazing person and business owner, and it is my pleasure to have him on the show. Tim is passionate about creating amazing things. He is the founder of Illusion Projects, Inc., a technical design, engineering, and fabrication firm that specializes in making and sharing incredible things. Currently in its 11th year, Illusion Projects works with companies including Cirque du Soleil, Disney, Blue Man Group, and performers from Gene Simmons of Kiss to David Copperfield. Tim invents, designs, and engineers stage sets, experiential marketing displays, special effects, illusions for production shows, museums, art installations, television, Broadway, theme parks, and special events in 27 countries across the globe. Tim has taken the company from small beginnings to a global resource for those looking to create the amazing, the intriguing, and the unusual. Illusion Projects is staffed with management team, design team, fabrication team, and a board of advisors. Tim's passion is projects that are unique and challenging. He has a firm belief that if he and his team can take on the impossible challenge, within his company, Tim promotes an attitude of creative problem solving and bending, imaginative and technical thinking. I have got to tell you, while this is his bio for you to get a really good idea of what Tim does, this is him and his company to a T. Tim is a designer, fabricator, consultant, writer, and speaker. He's a husband and a proud father. He's also pretty good at loading the dishwasher. So what are you going to hear and what are you going to uncover when listening in on my conversation with Tim? Why your time blocks need a makeover. The secret to preventing your passion from getting pushed to the bottom of the pile. How CEO days can help you flesh out your ideas. The principles that could benefit your hiring process. What going to the business gym can do for you, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Tim. All right, Tim, thank you so much for being here on Productivity Straight Talk. I am so looking forward to bringing this episode to our listeners. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay, so you guys heard in the intro that this is a long-standing client of mine. We've worked together since 2016 in a one-on-one coaching relationship. And I wanted to bring him on because, well, first of all, he's pretty darn funny. Second of all, the results he's gotten in his business and life just inspire me that this is why I do what I do. And I want you guys to hear it. So Tim, share with our listeners about you and your company and just give some people some insights into who we're talking to today.
Okay, thanks. So the company is Illusion Projects, and what we do is a whole range of different design and build projects that are all in the realm of something incredible, something amazing, something impossible. So I work in theater, we work in theme park, we work with museum companies, obviously we're right off the strip, right? So I work with a lot of the casinos here in town. But the main sort of element of our type of work has always been about coming up with something that's really going to amaze people or give someone a really feeling of something inspiring, and then go from complete zero, right? So just come up with an idea, design it, work out how to build it, and then get it to the client and have it be something that's completely unique. So we have a workshop here. So we've got about 8,000 square foot in the workshop. I've got 9 staff that work for me. And we run pretty much like a regular fabrication shop. But the main difference being is that every single thing we do is the first time. So for a lot of people, it's quite scary, right? It's quite a scary kind of work because you're often sort of leaping into the unknown. You're designing this thing, working on something that you've got no reference of. So that's a really core part of the type of work we do. And because we've become kind of really good at that process, I work with, theater shows. I end up working with, a lot of the work is with magicians. That was where the company started, was doing props for magicians. And now it's sort of spawned off into all these other areas that we've worked on developing the business out into. So it's experiential marketing and dealing with companies like Cirque du Soleil, Disney, Blue Man Group, right? Those guys. And coming up with things that really are sort of pushing the envelope a little bit. I get bored easily, so I like to do stuff that hasn't been done before, which is it's like a blessing and a curse, right, for a business.
It is. And those are things that we've been working on, right? Like, what is that workflow and that process when everything's new? And just hearing you say that in those words, and I see you sitting in your chair, because we always work virtual, even though we're in Las Vegas, just to get a full insight. We do get to see each other every once in a while, but it's generally all virtual. And I see you in the seat as I'm speaking to the CEO of this company. But this company was created because of your creativity and your skill set and what you had. And I think that that is important for our listeners to hear, because a lot of creatives say, but it's not natural for me to be the CEO. It's not natural to lead people, or I'm in this creative. And you literally jump. I see it all the time. I tell you, this is like your magic power, that you jump from creative to CEO in no time at all. Like all day, every day.
Yeah, I suppose that's the gig, isn't it?
It is. And I tell you that. Now you think, I swear you don't believe me, but I tell you, like, that's not, everybody has that up their sleeve, that skill set. So we'll probably dive into a little bit of that and figure out what makes you so special that you can go from straight design and creative and thinking of what's not possible or was not possible before you created it in your mind. And then jumping into, how do I lead a team of 9 and how do I grow my business and go into new markets, like, seamlessly?
Yeah. And well, I did what most people that do creative businesses do, which is I started as, wearing every hat, right? So when it started, it was me in the garage at the house. I had one kid that worked for me 2 days a week. And then it's, that quickly grew into a warehouse and an office, which was really small. And we had a folding card table as the sort of, that was the desk with a laptop on it. So it started really small. And I was the guy that was doing everything. So I would talk to the client, and then I'd go out in the workshop and I'd cut the metal and I'd weld it all together and I'd finish the prop off, and then I'd call the client again and do the delivery and the whole thing. So I was doing all the jobs, right? So I was doing everything. But I was also completely in charge of everything at that point.
Well, and how long ago was that? So
that was, we started in 2008. So that was probably from 2008 to 11, 12, somewhere around there, that it really was like that. And I sort of realized as it was growing that I just needed more people to do stuff. So I had more people, but all they were people that were doing what I told them. I was like the world's worst micromanager, right? So, so it really was that. It was me saying, okay, well, I can't do it, so you do this bit and I'll do that bit, and then we're working together. But what it meant was, even though I was sort of scaling, it wasn't a scalable option. It was just me telling other people to do stuff all day, every day. So they couldn't be autonomous. They couldn't work by themselves. They couldn't show their own creativity. It was just, everything was sort of flowing out of me. And I became this horrible choke point.
And at some point you got tired of the Tim show? So everything was your way.
I think everyone did. Well, and then I was doing, we talked about all these things that was the problem. So because I'm doing all that stuff, I'm getting up super early in the morning, I'm coming in, I've got staff with me all day, then I'm staying super late, and then I'm going home and falling asleep and repeat. So there comes a point where you wake up one morning and you go, am I in business? Or am I just working really hard for a job that is not paying that well already for what I'm doing? You know,
right. I mean, if you average that out, I think about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I should have gone and flipped burgers or something. I would have.
Right. And yet we are crazy enough. We, meaning entrepreneurs, are crazy enough to work for that low because it's the hope and the dream of creating something bigger, which you have done. Now, along that line, I don't know where in that timeline, you can share with us, you got married, you had a kid, and at some point that changes priorities, right?
It does. It absolutely changes priorities. And so I was married when I started the business, but only, we hadn't been married very long. And then as we got into business, the whole family thing sort of comes up. And in that respect, I'm quite a planner. So I was sort of very aware of the fact that really this business didn't suit me having a child. Now, that doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean? It was.
I absolutely know what you mean, and so does everybody listening.
Yeah, if I was working those kind of hours, I would be a terrible father, right? And I knew that, if I'm perfectly honest. And my dad had 3 businesses while I was growing up. I watched him start businesses and sell them. So it kind of runs in the family, right? So it was always, I would say expected, but that's not the right word. I've always wanted to be in business. Mm-hmm. It was never a thought in my head that wasn't where my future was going to be. So, but I also watched the stress and the strain that my dad went through when he was starting businesses. And I'm the oldest there's only 2 of us, but I'm the older brother. So I was there, sort of the man of the house for a large part of my teenage years, because my dad was out doing the business thing, getting it going and starting it up and getting it running. So because of that, I was sort of almost hyper aware, hypersensitive that when I had a child, I didn't want to be the guy that was never there. So I always talked about it with my wife that this was about laying foundation. I wanted to get the business to a point where its foundation was strong enough that I could be a good dad. I didn't want to be the guy that's just trying to make it work and, never quite there at family dinners and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I made some very severe choices around the time before I became a dad that I had to prep to become a father, and I had to get my house in order, was how I said. I had to get the house in order, meaning the business. Yeah. So I realized at that point, I think the mistake I made when I started was I didn't think big enough, right? If you'd asked me when I began the business how big I thought it was going to get, we surpassed that probably back in like 12 or 14 or something, right? That we just flew by it and didn't even notice. So I didn't think big enough. So I never planned for how big it was going to get. And as it got bigger and my desires got bigger, I've had to change my thinking in the way that I operate, in the way that I run this business, and the way that I guess that we structure the creative part of how it runs. Because if it's just the way it was, it would be like an artist. An artist has to paint the painting. They have to sell the painting. They can't scale beyond that. It's just how many paintings can they paint in an hour, right? That's it. There's a limit to that. Whereas we needed to surpass that limit, which meant that I had to then change my thinking and allow other people that were coming on board to flourish and change the way that I ran my day. So that's when I realized I had to actually run a company.
That's right. As opposed to
just being a guy,
Yeah. And that's interesting that I love that you shared that story, because I think back of when I started my business. Oh my gosh, if I knew what I was getting myself into, I don't think I would have done it. I'm like, ignorance is bliss, right? That saying, okay, that's probably good. I had a lot of ambition and a lot of hope, but I never saw what it is today either. And so I think it's very common that in owning business and entrepreneurship that we are growing. I always say this is the biggest personal development journey, right? We're growing. And as we grow, it's like we're kicking a bucket down the hill, like that finish line down the road, right? We just keep kicking that bucket because we see something bigger and we're like, oh, I got that. Okay, let's kick it further down the road. I got that. And some people around us, spouses, my husband's like, do you ever get to the finish line? And I was like, well, no, but that's the carrot that keeps me going. And then I just keep moving the finish line. And I think
there will never be a finish line. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay. So share with us some of the challenges that you were having when you decided to work with me. I'm certain you didn't ever wake up and say, I need a productivity specialist coach in my life, right? Like nobody says that, I guess, unless you're listening to my podcast all the time, but that's not like a common, I think, I wake up, I have this challenge. So what were the words? What was the challenge and the experiences you had that you wanted to solve?
So the challenge was quite simple, that I knew I was running in firefighting mode 100% of the time. And I was spending way too much time at work and actually not getting a lot of stuff done. When I started to kind of lay it out, what have I done? I would say, my God, I think I joked with my wife. It would say, this business would be so much easier if it wasn't for the clients. Right?
Right.
Because I'd spend my whole day doing stuff with the clients and find that there's no time to get anything done. And that's the irony of it, right?
Right.
Because I was still running everything. I was still the guy doing all this stuff.
And that's when you can tell there may be breakage when you're saying, this would be a great business if I had no clients.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got to a point, I think, where I was working so hard, I was so tired, I would go home, I'd come in the next morning and realize I'd left the doors open to the workshop, just unlocked and the lights on. I was so tired, I'd just gone home.
Yeah.
So these are bad points in your life, but at the same time, it's a wake-up call. And I had a mentor who we both know, which is Laurie Murphy. And Laurie had said that, she said, you know, on an organization side, you need to talk to Amber. So it was a recommendation, which was the best recommendation I ever got.
Thank you.
And I knew that I didn't know what it would take to get me more organized to focus my day. I was so stuck in it. I knew that I didn't know. I didn't know what it was I needed to know. I just knew that I didn't know, and I needed to find somebody that did. Yeah. And that's how we started, because it was about finding somebody else that could look at it from an outside point of view. In the same way that I can look at my clients' problems from an outside point of view, and I can help them solve problems and come up with amazing stuff very easily, and they're stuck in the middle of it and can't see it.
Yes.
I knew that I didn't know, and I think that's really what it was there's a sort of an admission to that point. You know, you have to sort of set the ego aside and go, you know what, you suck at this. You need to get better, and you can't do it. So you've got to find someone that can help you do it. And that's what we did.
Okay, that's great. Not that that's great where you were at, but it sounds to me that you knew that there was a gap, whether that was a skill set, right? Or coaching to accountability or being shown the way. There was a gap that you wanted to fill because you had somewhere to go in your business, right? And a life to live with your family.
Yeah. Do you remember that I canceled our first session 3 times?
I do remember that. In fact, I actually tell that story often when people cancel with me now. Yeah. By the time I get them on the phone, now there's this elephant in the room. They feel guilty. They're wondering what I feel about them. I don't know if that's how you feel. And I say, hey, you know what? My best client that I've had for the longest canceled with me for 3 times. And my perfect client, honestly, I had to, at some point, so this is behind the scenes, I am like, you say you're going to call me, you say you're going to be somewhere, we set an appointment. I was that grumpy, you do what you say you're going to do. Way, way, way back then. And then I realized that as I got bigger, actually, when they cancel or they're late or I leave a message and I don't get a voicemail back, those are all clues to me. They need me. So I push harder and I keep showing up. Whether that story is in my head or not, it's helping my sales, right? And growing my business because I'm like, well, until they tell me they don't need me, I'm going to think this is just disorganization and lack of productivity and they need me.
Oh, yeah. And I needed it bad. And it became a running joke in our office because Debbie had to keep rescheduling it because I kept saying, oh, I haven't got time for it. And that was the joke. You don't have time for the productivity coach. Well, there you go. Maybe that's telling you something.
Yes. However, I do have to be a testament to the fact that once you committed, and this is just you wholeheartedly now that I know you, you don't miss appointments. You hardly ever reschedule. When we are having our sessions, you're fully attentive and you do your homework. Those are all great traits in a client, but it was almost like you had to get to a place where it was like your arm behind your back. Now, I didn't put it there, but you cancel, and then you're finally like, I need to be all in. And when you made that decision, you've never looked back.
100%. If I'm honest, it's hard. And I knew it was going to be hard. But I've always told myself that anything worth doing is difficult. And I remind myself of that when I say, oh, it's really hard. I've got to do this schedule or start to getting block schedule in process, right? That was a really hard transition for me because I was just flipping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was not natural for me to say, okay, I'm going to time block my day. And we worked it out and it took us a while, right? But once we got it in, it is now sort of, it's like a religious thing now. I have to do it.
Yes.
And I don't know what I would do without it. I remember what it was like, but I don't know how I would operate at this point without those kind of things.
Okay, we're going to go deeper into that, but what was it like operating? Okay, so I need you to paint a picture of, or maybe I'll start painting the picture and I'll let you fill in the details. When I just described that you're fully attentive in a session, okay, I have to take that back because I'm remembering the last 18 months, maybe 2 years, okay? When we first started working together, the very first thing that I remember was, why are all these people walking in your office when you're in a meeting? Why are... Yes, the questions. So there was nowhere else they were going but to come to you. There was stuff being built. You have all these employees and they needed to talk to Tim to get their problem solved or to make any kind of decision. And when I was looking at, okay, so you need like time to focus and think, and you can't even have 45 minutes with your coach uninterrupted.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a problem.
Yes,
and
it was.
So
yes,
I would say that was one of them, that there was no space for you to breathe and think and be uninterrupted. Something else that comes up for me that's super memorable was on a personal level. So while we were looking at how to create efficiencies and productivity in the office, there was a bigger reason why. And that reason was you had a goal to be home certain nights of the week. I am going to be home at a certain time, certain nights of the week, because that's what matters most to me. And it's going back to that life by design, being a dad by design, husband by design. And I remember that being super important to you. And I heard that and I was like a dog with a bone. And everything we did, I remember going, and when will you be home? And how does that make sure you get home on time? And literally just driving that home early on in our coaching relationship.
Yes. Well, and this morning I was able to take my son to school and do the school run. I'll pick him up after school, we'll hang out for a little bit. All this within my workday. I'm able to fit my workday around being, dad times, which is great. And yeah, it was a mess. You're right. When we first started, people were coming in and out. And that was because I was still that channel. I was still that funnel of the whole thing. And I think that you and I have worked together from the development of Trevor into being our manager and sort of putting that in place, so that I can now step back and realize what my job was. I didn't know what my job was. I thought my job was everything. It turns out actually I'm not good at everything. Other people are way better than I am at some stuff. So now, watching someone like Trevor grow into that role has been, I feel like, a proud father. Watching him come in to work for us part-time doing CAD design. And now he's managing, as our production manager, he manages the shop. And to watch him grow as a person from that point where he was still working just sort of part-time jobs and they came in for me part-time, to now being a real force of sort of directing all these people and running it. And because he's focused just on running, I say just like it's nothing, it's a massive undertaking, but because he's focused on running the production and the physical fabrication side of the shop, I can focus on design and not be interrupted every 5 minutes with those questions that we used to get when you and I first started. Because now he's handling that, and I have 110% confidence that he can do that. So now I can sit, we can do this conversation, I can do my work today, and not worry about whether it's getting done out there, whether they're moving forwards, because they're now like a team and they're doing this stuff without me. And as I've sort of grown up in this business to realize that, as obvious as it sounds, but when you've got a team that then start doing that kind of stuff, so they're solving problems by themselves, they're creating new ideas by themselves. When you're doing all that stuff, this is when it blossoms. This is the real bit. This is where it starts to work. And I have this sort of eternal grateful and feeling towards the guys I have. The team I have right now is an amazing team, and the management I have now is amazing management. I'm so lucky to have these people here every day doing what they do. And it makes me feel really great that we've got to that point and that we've been able to sort of restructure my craziness into this thing that's actually...
It's real. It created something really, really amazing. And I know you work really hard on the team and the culture. One of the things that I feel like we have revisited several times is your role. And you mentioned that earlier, is like, I didn't even know what my role was. It was just everything. And as we are always focused on, well, Tim, what is your highest value activity? Like, what makes you productive? And how do you lead this team? And how do you stand in the visionary role of the company, which you love to do, right? But also dealing with the day-to-day. You've got an inbox that you're getting emails, you've got sales calls, you've got design. Now, as amazing as it sounds to have an amazing team, that's 9 amazing families to feed. Or that's 9 people that
you're
are...
absolutely right. It's a big monster. Yeah. It's a big monster. And I'm in the same way that I was very aware of how fatherhood would change. As I gained more employees, I was incredibly aware that I wasn't just, I'm just paying people to come in and do some work for me, that I'm now bringing people into this business and that they're looking to make sure that their needs are met. There's a big responsibility there for having a staff, even though I have relatively small staff, compared to a lot of companies. But even so, I'm sort of deeply aware on a daily basis that this place is supplying their livelihood for their families. It's also, I'm deeply passionate about people coming here and developing as people. I don't want people to just come in, clock in, do the job and leave and go home. That's plenty of places they can do that. And I tell them in an interview, if that's what you want to do, absolutely great. There's other places to go do that. I want people to come in here and to learn things they've never done, do things they've never done before, step outside their comfort zone. I know it's a little scary, but that's what it's all about. If you don't do those things, then I don't know. I feel like I'm not really living if I don't do that stuff. I joke I get bored easily. So I'm all about kind of what's the new challenge, what's the next thing. And it's really just about finding a way to push ourselves forwards. That's exciting. I'm excited to
purposely surrounding yourself with people that align with that get excited about the growth and I think that's really big. Okay. So today, obviously, we're still working together, and it's kind of because that bucket keeps getting pushed down the road, and it's because it gets bigger and more and clearer. And I remember you coming back one time and just having this, all right, Amber, I have this 10-year plan. And I thought, we don't have to get into the details of it here in the episode, but I remember thinking the fact that you had the space, the mental capacity to dream 10 years down the road was a huge win because we had gotten you out of the day-to-day. You're in the day-to-day. I don't want to say that. Like, you're in your business every day, but it gave you that opportunity to be like, oh my gosh.
Well, you're right. And I think the thing is that I got so caught up in the day-to-day that I couldn't plan and I didn't have time. At the end of the day, I got into the job to do creative work, right? I love coming up with new stuff. That was why I started the business. And then there I was, God knows how many years in, saying the last thing I do, the thing that gets pushed under the rug and left at the bottom of the pile is the creative work. I do all this other stuff just to kind of get things going. And what we did was found a way to bring that back up to the top again. So between time blocking has got giant blocks that say creative and design work in it. And those are great times. But also when I'm in the sort of craziness of just running the company, if you feel like, or if I feel like there's too much on my shoulders, what am I going to do? Oh my goodness. When I get those, and everyone gets those moments, right? Then the first thing I do is look at what am I supposed to be doing right now?
Okay. So share with us in your words. I share with you, I teach and coach you time blocking. Now, this is going from wild, wild west, right? No time block. We are firefighting all day. We are in reactive mode. And I'm saying we because at some point, I think that people understand that they are in firefighter mode. And if they're not really proactive with their schedule, that's where they stay. So that's where we started with you. And how many variations and versions of your block schedule do you think we've gone through over the years?
Oh, good gracious. I have no idea. There must be tons.
Right. And I want everyone to hear that. Tons. Because why? First of all, we don't know what works or doesn't work until you try it.
There is that. I have a very bad habit, and I'm sure a lot of people do, of underestimating how long it's going to take me to do something. So I would create my original, I think, time block version would have been my fantasy version of what I think I can do. And there's no basis on reality whatsoever. So, you get to the first block and then it all falls apart. And then before you know it, you're halfway through the day, it's all shot.
Right, because we're optimistic, right? We think,
cool.
Exactly. And then you create the block schedule, it kind of runs off the tracks. You're like, oh my gosh, that did not work out as planned. But I think that another reason why we have multiple versions is because you've been shedding your skin too, right? You've been stepping more and more into defining your role.
Yeah, the early schedules would have sort of go spend time in the shop and make sure all the guys are okay. It's gone. That's gone off the schedule. I have a manager now, so he does that. which is fantastic.
Right. And we weaned you out of there. That wasn't, so that in itself was multiple because it was, okay, so this is good insight. When we first started working together, it was a free for all. Tim is available. Even if he's in a meeting, go ask him questions. And then it was, all right, Tim, can we baby step into this? And like when you have your closed door, can they write their questions on a whiteboard? Wasn't that it? Okay.
Yep.
And then when you come out of your meeting,
they would put it on the whiteboard.
Yeah, exactly. You'd come out of your meeting and you whiteboarded it. And then it was, and I'm just trying to remember the details. Then it was, okay, can you go out? I think it was the top of the hour and just check in. And can they just hold their questions till the top of the hour?
Till each hour.
And then it was 3 times a day, something like that, 3 or 4 times a day. And we blocked that time out of 20, 30 minutes. That's where you need to be. Go answer all their questions. Fast forward now, I think you told me in our last session, you hadn't been out in the shop in a couple days.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I don't care about my business.
No,
I really do.
You do. You're caring about it in a different way.
I completely understand, where am I of most value? Wandering around the shop is not valuable to my staff. It actually hurts them. But it's tough for me because I want to go out and do it. It's like a bad habit. But it's not on the schedule, so I don't go.
Right.
So because of that, now also it means that Trevor can do his job and manage effectively. Because if I go out there and they start asking me questions when they really should be funneling it through their manager, which is Trevor, then now we've got a sort of double hierarchy going on and nobody knows who they should be asking. So then they don't feel safe because they don't feel certain in who's the right person to go to for the information, all that kind of stuff. So as tricky as it was to make that transition, I had to force myself. It was against what I wanted to do, but in the end, it served a much bigger desire of mine, which is to run this company the way I'm running it now. So it was very important to get used to doing that. And as silly as it is, having something in front of you that says, do this now, is so much better to do than what is the next piece of paper I pick up on my desk or the next thing I look at or whatever. It becomes much more focused. Yes. And then I get on top of it. You remember for the longest time, the joke was that I could never keep up with design work. So clients would want me to design, I'm working on a project for this and that, whatever. And I run multiple things at the same time. And they say, where's the drawings for this? Where's the drawings for that? And I would have to sit down and do creative work. And I would always be behind, always making excuses. And then we finally broke it. And it must have taken a year to get to the point where I was ahead on design work. And it fluctuates, between being ahead or on time, whatever. But the fact is I'm leading that now, as opposed to my clients leading it going, hey, you're late. Where's this? Asking me if I've done this thing for them yet. Now I'm delivering the thing for them before they ask.
Right. And I could imagine. So generally, my clients come to me for one of 2 reasons. They want to increase profits or they want to decrease stress. And I always say they end up wanting both, right? It's just one's a leading issue. And in that scenario, that one tiny fix that you just shared, how much stress comes off of your shoulders when you're leading and you're ahead of your clients and they're not tagging you and you don't have to respond to the phone calls and the emails and all the other things that are taking your time that you could be spending designing, but you're not because you're putting out the fires of why you didn't design. See that vicious circle?
And that's it. You nailed it. That was the vicious circle that we are now out of. And it wasn't easy to get out of it, but because we pushed and pushed and pushed, we got there. And the funny thing is that when you get out of it, you don't notice you've got out of it. You're just into the new way of working until you stop and look back and go, wow, we actually got out of it. That was the key moment, I think, was getting out of that and getting ahead of that curve. And I feel much more in control of what's going on than before, where I just felt like I was just, scatterbrain all day, just trying to do it.
So what I want to do is kind of pull this back a little bit for the listeners and point out a couple things. One is they didn't hear me say, or you, that the goal was that you are not in the shop, right? All day.
Right. Sure.
So what would have happened if I would have come in and said, Tim, you're the CEO, like legit, you need to stay out of the shop. Here's your schedule. That's not realistic. This is like the Cliff Notes version, right? There was so many different things that we worked on, and you built Trevor up and you trained him and you got workflows going and you got clear on your schedule. Literally, there's endless variables to the fact that the goal was, how do we get Tim in his role? And when you kept working and your team kept working towards this thing, that's how we started. And that's how I do it, is baby steps. We started with just when he closes his door a couple of times a day, whiteboard, top of the hour. And then we graduated you to a few times a day. And it's that graduating is why I believe you looked back and was like, how did that change? Because it didn't feel painful. Yes. It was, we were working on it and working on it and working on it.
Yeah, I think that's really what it was. And it was interesting because when you and I really kind of broke it down, what I was doing, which was a massive amount of work and a lot of it not productive for me, that was when I think also we realized that there's almost a whole other job there. And I think there was a point where I think we actually had a conversation along that lines where we looked at everything we were doing and went, there is another job. There's another person's job here that you're doing. And that's what led into us kind of creating a job.
Well, you've actually created 2 jobs out of yours since then.
Yeah, that's true.
So Trevor, completely different role and completely handles a huge aspect of what you were handling. And then I remember dropping a seed saying, so what about an assistant? What about an executive assistant? And I let that sit with you. And then we had another session. Maybe I let a couple sessions go by. And then when things would come up, that's a great job for an assistant. And then one day you came to a session and said, this is what I think you said. I have this great idea. I think I need an assistant.
I will credit you with that idea because you are right. But, and I think there was a part when you first said that at first, the idea of that seemed completely foreign to me. It's very uncomfortable. But the uncomfortable was more about, that's what corporate CEOs do and guys that fly on jets, right? That's what they do. Why would I need an assistant like that? Because that's what I thought an assistant was. And to be honest, I've got clients that I work with who are multimillionaires or more, and they have assistants and I deal with their assistants. But they're really like people that sort of scuttle around and do some stuff for them. I never really viewed it as something that would fit within my day. It didn't seem like a logical step at first until I started to look at what the job would be. And then when we really carved it out, I said, okay, it made sense because the sort of the image I had of what an assistant was versus the reality, I started to get on board with what reality actually was. And that was one of the best decisions we ever made.
Yeah.
And you were a part of that hiring process. Do you remember we spent a long time working it out? It was a really long hiring process.
Yeah. And then
what do we have? I think we had 140 applicants.
Yeah.
Like
and I remember I think it was probably the 3rd interview. I came in at the panel. Yeah. You had your other mentors and coaches there as well.
Yeah.
Where we could just ask questions and then give our input. You did an amazing job really vetting and knowing what you wanted. You had created Jill in your head before Jill existed.
Correct. And then we had to go out and find Jill. And we did.
Exactly. Now she's been with you for over a year, right?
Yeah. Over a year now.
And so what is that dynamic of, so now you had to be like, well, what would that look like for me? And here's what's the good news is, I don't know that Jill's role is what any other assistant's role is, right? Like once you leaned into it, you said, actually, I see this person as someone that can help me. Where do I need help? What do I need help? And also, you didn't just hire for skill set. You hired for characteristics, which I think has served your relationship very, very well as she can grow into what you need when you need it.
And to be honest with you, that idea has now permeated into how we hire everybody here. So we fundamentally hire for, obviously, we're looking for basic skills, whether it be somebody in the workshop or somebody in the office or whatever it is. We look for basic skills. I don't want someone that's got 0 skills. I'm looking for some sort of skill. But I'm really hiring for a mindset and attitude because, as I mentioned earlier, I get people in here and I love to have them learn new stuff. I love to see people grow. So that's almost become a mission of the company, which is ironic because creative design and build company, yet really I'm out here trying to get my staff to experience new things. And the mindset of people that want to experience that and do that is the same mindset that can learn new skills and jump in on new stuff, which is exactly what we are doing on a daily basis. So I found that actually pushing for the mindset and looking for that in my hire is almost more important than the skill set at the end of the day. Yeah. So Jill, it was about finding someone that had the mindset that would want to come in and learn new stuff and grow themselves. And that's exactly what she's done. And she's come in, she's essentially a member of our management team now. She has her own separate project she works on. She deals a lot with our sales. creating new leads. She's got all that. She goes out and hires people to work for her now. It's hilarious. It's become this.
This is great. You kind of whizzed over that, but I'm glad you shared that. Is you actually created a role, which traditionally an assistant is an expense. And in the way that she's working and building her role, she'll actually be a revenue. She'll be bringing in revenue that will cover
that's
her
exactly what we did.
salary.
Yeah. So she does entirely that. She now is at a point where she helps create sales. She brings in revenue, but also on a day-to-day stuff, I've now got somebody else that can handle things. She handles the block schedule. That's a good example. My wife cannot book to come and see me at work without calling Jill and booking it on the block schedule.
Yeah.
Which is how it should be. Because if everything funnels through that one person, she is a master at blocking that and lining all that stuff up so that I can now concentrate on my job and let her do her bit. So it's really wonderful to have somebody that can sort of not just back you up, but like help steer. Yeah. Right? You know, the CEO's there steering the ship. And now I've got a second person that can grab the wheel when I need it, if you want the analogy.
Okay.
You know?
So if you've been listening to this podcast for some time, I did an episode called Rapid Fire Power Hour. We will link to it in the show notes. But we actually joked, right, Tim, that you do a Rapid Fire Power Hour 2.0 with General Jill. And so explain to you. So I'm going to give a quick explanation of what a Rapid Fire Power Hour is, just so that if someone's new to the show, but go listen to this episode. So a Rapid Fire Power Hour is an hour that you set each week to rapidly get through small tasks that could get stuck or lost or fall through the cracks, or if ignored, they become fires. And so it's really anything that is coming to you throughout the week. And let's say your rapid fire power hours on Friday, you ask yourself, does this need to be looked at, seen at, responded to before Friday? If the answer is no, it goes in your rapid fire power hour. And the goal is that you do that on such a regular basis that things don't feel like they're overwhelming and you're kind of clearing the slate. I like doing mine on Friday. Tim, when do you do yours?
Normally Thursday.
Okay, great. So it doesn't matter when you do it, just that it's regular. Now share with our listeners how you do your rapid fire power hour now.
Okay. So here's the thing, and I don't want to put this the wrong way. I hate power hour. I hate it. Right? I love the results, but I hate it. So power hour for me is like business gym. Okay. I hate going to the gym. I love feeling good. So I go to the gym so I can feel good. I don't like being there. Can't stand it, but I love feeling great. So I go and I sweat and I kill myself because I love the result. Okay. So power hour is exactly the same as that. It's business gym. You go, God, I don't want to do power hour. I try and put it off. Jill puts it back on the schedule, like all of that stuff. So she comes and sits in here right next to me with the list. It's sort of like a military thing, I suppose. It's right.
That's how we got General Jill.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So do this one now. So then she's just literally, you've got someone sitting over you. So it's like it's accountability though. When I've got her sitting here and she has the list, we focus on nothing else except the power hour tasks. And I just go through it, right, done that one. And then if it's one that takes a few minutes, she might walk away and go do something else and then yell at me from the other room, have you done it yet? So as ironic as it sounds, it works really well because it's horrible. But afterwards you go, oh my goodness, I got that off my plate, I got that off my plate, I did this one, and they're just done.
Yes.
And it gets it done. And for me, honestly, the stuff that ends up on power hour is the things I don't want to do.
Oh, okay.
Things like it's an uncomfortable conversation with a client, or it's an email you don't want to have to send out because it's bad news sometimes, or an alteration to a design where you go, I've done all the design work. Really, do I have to do this one stupid fix for you? Yes, you do. Just do it. It's like you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So you push it and push it and push it. I don't make the power hour list now. Jill makes the power hour list. And it's very simple. I think she just looks through what is on my to-do list on my block schedule. And if I don't do it for a few days, it disappears off my schedule, which is great. You think, oh, it's gone. Oh, no. It's in power hour. You're doing it.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. I think that is amazing. So I do a version of that. And so I meet with my assistant, Crystal, every week as well. And we always have a project that we're working on, like content creation or something. But prior to that, I throw things over there that I need to make decision points on because I'm a talker and I got to talk things out. And she's been with me for a long time. She knows me best. And so I do a little version of that mostly to do with like decision points. Should we stop this, do that? Should we try this? Should we do that? Because I got to get it out of my head. And I can make the decision so much faster than if I'm trying to do that same decision or that same thing by myself.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So before we wrap up, there was one other thing that I think that you have had that has had a huge impact on your visioning and your growth. And that is what we call the CEO Day.
I love CEO Days.
Oh, okay. So
to the power hour. I love it.
That's so funny. So I can see Tim on video right now. You guys are just listening to the audio. He lights up when I drop CEO Day, and he was disgruntled when we talked rapid fire power hour.
Truth comes out.
Okay. So
Yes.
explain to us how you use your CEO Day. What do you do? And what are the results that have come out of consistently doing a CEO Day?
So CEO Day came about because I think you and I identified that I want to work that whole on the business, in the business thing, right?
Yep.
I want to work on the business, big picture, planning, big ideas. I want to spend time doing this, but in the whirlwind of the day and the normal stuff that's going on, even with my job as good as it's got, it's still very hard to clear your mind and think about those things. We decided that it would be really good to try doing, like setting some time aside for it. So I think at first I tried doing it just at work, and then we just blocked something in, and it didn't work. I think I just kept throwing it off the schedule. It just wasn't at work. So CEO Day now, we worked out that offsite is better.
Yes.
Because I'm away from all the distractions of the regular business running. And then I do it on a Saturday, which I work a 6-day week anyway. And I've done that for a long time. And that's not a big deal. 6 days a week doesn't feel, I love Sundays with my family. It's fantastic. But working on a Saturday and 6 days a week, not a big deal.
So I'm going to pause because people are like, hold on, you've worked with a productivity specialist and worked 6 days a week. And
Sure.
I'm here to say yes, because my goal is to help you get to your goals and your life by design. And early on you said, Amber, I'm cool with that. So it's not my job to fix something that's not broken. If at some point you say, oh my gosh, I've arrived, I'm going to work 5 days a week now, we'll make that happen. But I do want people to hear that I am here to support your goals, not make my own goals.
Yeah, I think it's important to clear up. The goal for me was going home earlier. I would stay at work until 9 o'clock at night doing crazy stuff, but I'd start at 8 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I was away every day for a long time. And I don't want to be the dad that comes home after the kid's gone to sleep.
Right.
So I go home a lot earlier now. So that was what we were looking for. That was the achievement, was that on a daily basis, I can leave work and go home early.
Yes.
And I can spend the evening with my son.
Yes.
And my wife, of course, she's there too. I can do those things because that's the change that we made. I'm comfortable with the Saturday work. I'm working 6 days. But on Saturday is CEO Day.
Right. And Saturday was a 6-day because there was so much to do. And now you've been able to keep your Saturday, but create it for something much bigger.
Absolutely.
Okay,
so
cool.
obviously my staff work a 5-day week, so they're off on the weekends. So Saturday's a lovely quiet day. It's blissfully quiet around the workshop. And I'll come in, I'll prep for my CEO Day, and then I get in the car and I go to a coffee shop, normally the same one, and normally order the same coffee. And I've got my notebook, and sometimes I put headphones in, sometimes not. But it is a chance to just brain dump out all the ideas that are building up and start to put it into notes and ideas and focus on different things in the strategy of where the business is going, what we're developing next, what the next big project is, where we're going to be in 10 years, all those things. Those are things that I'll spend quiet time by myself at a coffee shop on CEO Day planning out, because I'm away from the distraction of business and I'm able to really think clearly about what we're doing.
Yes.
And honestly, it's a lot of fun. I think the first time I did it, I was there for hours and went, oh my goodness, look at what I've started. Everything just started coming out, just writing in pages and pages and pages of ideas and notes and thoughts, because I just had no idea that I was bottling so many feelings and ideas up about where I wanted to go with the company and what I wanted to be doing.
Right.
So it's allowed me to really clearly sort of plan trajectory. And now I also use it for project work. So I say, okay, I'm working on a specific next phase chapter of the company or a new development I want to do. So I'll wait until CEO Day and we'll now schedule it. So now CEO Day goes on the block schedule. It says what the subject is, what I'm going to be working on. And I go and I'll sit there and I'll work through the ideas for those things. And it's super, super productive. I've come up with so much good stuff that we've implemented and things we've done and places we're going.
Yeah.
So
and the clarity that you get from those sessions, right, comes through in the decisions you make on a daily basis in your company Monday through Friday, because you're so much clearer about where we're going. So when there's decision points, which we all have them all the time, what clients am I taking on? What's the new price point? What product? What am I saying yes or no to? I mean, honestly, it's decisions all day, every day. I can't help to think that the clarity from these CEO days is just making you make better decisions to get you to where you want to be, because you can clearly see that.
Yeah, I think that what it allowed me to do was to get to really help flesh out visions, right? Big vision stuff. We talked about a little bit about 10-year, 3-year. We have this year's vision. We have sort of marker points, rocks for every quarter for this year. So we kind of have an idea of where we want to go and things I want to do. And I think what it is that CEO days allow me to focus on each of those things and really flesh out, what's the steps to get there? So I know what the thing is I want to do, but now I can step back and go, right, how am I going to get to that thing? And how am I going to do that? Right now we're working on a new product development. We're getting into a whole new arena that we've not tried before. I'm really excited about it. And I think what's fun about that is that I said, okay, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone. I'm going to try something new. I know where I want to go. I'm dealing with industries I've never dealt with before. I had no idea how I was going to get there. So I use CEO Day to sort of brainstorm, what could we do? And then I take the brainstorm, we come back to work, and then I've got Jill working on stuff, Trevor working on stuff, I'm working on stuff. How can we now guide ourselves in the direction of what we want to do, what this big vision is, and how can we all get on board with heading that way? So CEOs days are invaluable for projecting that stuff out and working it out, right? Yeah. You can work it out. And you may not have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm happy to not have all the answers to stuff. But I can come up with the questions on CEO Day so we can go find the answers.
All right. I think we need to stop there. That was brilliant. I don't have all the answers, but I come up with the questions to go get the answers. And it's not always you coming up with the answers. I know you've come back and said, Jill, go research this, or, what is it? You're outsourcing even the answers from your CEO Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what this team's all about, isn't it? Having these people and getting to this point that we've got to is so lovely, because you can now feel, I think I said this to you at one point, as a CEO, there was a point where I felt really alone. I felt like it was just, everything came on my shoulders and it was just me. Everything from the finances to the operations to the clients, the customers. At the end of the day, I felt really alone, like nobody could really relate to what I was going through. And now I'm not alone anymore. We got it to where I know my job, I know my role, I have these people around me who I love dearly, and I'm so appreciative of everything they do, that we are now in it together. And suddenly we're like this group of people doing this stuff, and it changes your focus, it changes what you do, and it changes how you do it. So now it's so wonderful to be able to know that I can come up with something and know wholeheartedly that we will work out the way to achieve it. And that's the strength, right? That's what all the work that we've done together has been about.
Yes.
Right? Ultimately, that's why we do it.
That is why we do it. Tim, thank you so much for letting us in on your business and your growth and honestly your achievements. I really wanted to bring you on because I am very, very proud of you. I know I've told you this before, but not everybody does what you've done. And your focus and discipline and dedication and passion, well, first of all, make you an amazing client, but just a great person. And I wanted to share that with others, because a big part of this podcast is to inspire others and to hear where you came from. It's like, you're sharing your garage story. I think you said carriage, because that's what you call it. Right?
Oh, I'm from a different country.
Okay. So this is a, garage to 8,000 square foot workshop with people a mile off of the strip. And this is just one milestone. Like, I know where you're going. Like, I can see it. You can see it. And thank you for sharing your story with us.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. And thanks for everything you do. I mean, I couldn't have done it without you. I say we a lot. We couldn't have done it without everything we've done. It's been wonderful up to this point, and there's so much more to do.
Yes. Thank you so much. I do feel like I'm part of your team, and I appreciate it. I like working with you as well. And Gosh, I thank you for being open enough to share your story with my listeners. So we'll end it there. But Tim, before we get all mushy, because let me tell you, our sessions are not mushy, are they, Tim? We don't have, we're not mushy sessions. So we're getting all mushy right now. But honestly, we've built this great relationship, and I feel I've partnered with you. I feel like I am invested in your goals. Like I want them for you. You want them for you. And we're working together to make that happen. And I couldn't imagine, when I think about, now I'm going to rant, when I think about even what I had envisioned for my business, I don't think that I would have envisioned the passion and the love I have for my job because I partner with my clients. I only partner with clients that I think we're on the same page, right? I have value to give, that they're in it to win it for their goals, and they ask for help. And then together, that's what we're going to make happen. And so I guess that's just what I want to share, is that I just take this process so seriously because we're all here doing something, right? Like we're providing for our families and we're creating something for the world. And, being a part of that, I totally appreciate you bringing me on your journey.
Thanks. It's been good up to this point. We've got a lot more to do, like I said. So it's so strange to look back and think about where we were and how far we've come. You don't think about the journey while you're doing it. It's only when you look back on it, you realize, good gracious, look at that.
Look at that. All right, Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so you got to meet Tim. Can you tell why I absolutely love my company and my job? I get to work with amazing people just like Tim every single day, where I am jumping into different types of businesses, from what Tim does to real estate and financial advisors and online business owners. You name it, I am in there working with business owners, because what I have found is, just like when you're listening in on my conversation with Tim, is that the things that I work on are so specific to the owner, right? Like it doesn't matter the industry that you're in or the type of clients you serve. We all have very, very similar challenges. And so if you resonated with some of Tim's challenges and you were shaking your head when you were hearing his before story and the struggles and the things that were challenging him and his team from getting to that next level, then you know that you're not alone. And I just want to tell you that Tim upped his productivity game and he stepped into his CEO role. And he found that role that served both one for himself, his family, his employees, and his clients. If you're thinking that you want to get on the right track to success and start your journey of stepping into your own CEO role so that you can take back your business and be in control of your life and your time as you had wanted when you first started your business, then I think a great place to start is to schedule a strategy session with me. I think that you could absolutely do this. I think that we could do this together. And I think an amazing way to get started is to schedule a strategy session where we will unpack 1 to 3 challenges that you are facing right now in your business for you to find that breakthrough that you need to get to the other side, to get that momentum. So if you're interested in scheduling a strategy session with me, then I would love for you to go visit theproductivityspecialist.com/strategy session. Again, that's theproductivityspecialist.com/strategy session. So the time has come. I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk, but I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. So what are you willing to take action on? Was there an aha? Was there I've been doing this alone and I think I could do it with somebody. I could get help. I could find clarity. Then I'm inviting you to schedule that strategy session. Or perhaps Tim enlightened you on a different way to look at a problem that you are currently facing. I want you to identify that aha so that you can take action and see the results in your business and life. I would love for you to join us inside our Productivity Straight Talk community. If you're already a member, I want you to jump in and share with us what you learned from listening to my conversation with Tim. What was an aha? What is something that Tim was going through that you totally understand because you're right there right now? If you're not already a member, you can join us for free by going to productivitycommunity.com. And before we close out today, I just want to send a special thank you to all of my loyal listeners. January was a huge month for Productivity Straight Talk. My guess is many of you are new listeners, and I am so honored that you are here. If you find Productivity Straight Talk valuable for yourself, don't keep it a secret. Share it with another entrepreneur friend that you think would find it valuable and would help them in their business and life. I have a special thank you going out to KDiz80, who recently said, I've listened to 3 Productivity Straight Talk episodes so far. Unlike a few other productivity, quote unquote, podcasts I've listened to, this one is geared towards entrepreneurs and is loaded with tips I can implement immediately, and that's all in caps, to grow my biz. Amber has a refreshing stance on productivity I hadn't heard before. She is knowledgeable, generally wants to help entrepreneurs get ahead. Thank you, KDZiz80. I sure wish these testimonials and reviews on iTunes left me some real names. So for those of you that have left reviews and I didn't use your name, shoot me an email over at amber@theproductivityspecialist.com and just let me know so I can give you a proper thank you. Thank you so much. I truly do this for the listener. I do this because I am extremely passionate about bringing productivity skills to entrepreneurs so that they can go out and do the good work that they set out to do when they started their business. And without themselves getting in their way and the busyness of life and business getting in the way of them really achieving their goals. That's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.